Today we're here live in Pearl Harbor with the assistant director of a conservation nonprofit here on Oahu. This is Bert Weeks.
Hi everybody, my name is Bert. I'm the assistant director of an organization called Hui Ohonua. It's a Hawaiian word that means people who are taking care of the world. I'm here in Pearl Harbor where we're trying to restore some of the really great ecosystems that are all around here. You might know Pearl Harbor from its history in World War II and how it entered the United States into the war, but most people don't know about the rich history and all the environmental history that it has. So mangrove roots are one of the defining characteristics, especially of this type of mangrove. One interesting thing about the mangrove habitat is that it changes a lot. It's in the edge of the water, which makes it a tidal ecosystem. What that means is sometimes it's underwater, like over here, and sometimes it's dry and above water, like over there. And the tide, depending on where you are in the world, can change 2 or even 4 times a day. So one mangrove root can go wet, then dry, then wet, then dry, all in the same day. It makes it really difficult if you're a crab or if you're another animal that's living there, because sometimes you're wet and sometimes you're dry, sometimes you're cold and sometimes you're hot. So you have to have really hardy and really strong animals to live in this kind of ecosystem. Okay, so we're gonna look for some animals in the mangrove. Mangroves have these roots that go down into the water, and these roots are really great hiding spots for baby animals. So it's a nursery place. A lot of the little baby fish and the crabs and all these things like to hang out in the mangroves because it's safe there compared to out in the middle of the ocean. So if you look closely on the mangroves, you can kind of see a little bit of little tiny shells. Those are little invertebrates, or sometimes you might know them as barnacles. So there's a lot of barnacles and other shells that live on the roots.
Are those the white spots?
The little white spots, those are the little shells. You can also see there's little baby fish that like to hang out in the mangrove too. Like I said, the roots give a lot of shelter and a lot of protection so that the baby fish don't get eaten by other things. However, there are things that still go after the baby fish, like that barracuda. That's a predatory fish that tries to eat other fish. But luckily, there's a lot of places to hide in the mangrove roots. So it's a great, they call it a nursery ground for fish.
What's the crab eating then?
So the crab is eating, is that the same crab?
Oh, I see
different
baby
crab.
fish. Do you see all the baby fish?
Yeah, look at those baby fish. So the crabs like to scavenge. So crabs get on the bottom and they eat the stuff in the mud.
Do they eat? So they eat all these leaves that fall? Because I read that those were food for the animals too.
Exactly. So whatever waste just falls into the bottom and starts to decompose, that's what the crabs love. They eat stuff that's dead or leaves or just stuff that's decomposing. The food chain of a mangrove, you have a lot of different things going on. You have a lot of the base layer, which is the plants and the algae, and then you have the things that eat the algae, like some of the fish and the invertebrates, and then there's the small fish and the invertebrates, and then bigger fish will eat those invertebrates. And at the top of the food chain here, you probably have bigger birds that come around and they'll eat those bigger fish. So that's kind of like maybe a 3-level food chain here. Most plants don't like the ocean. It's too salty. Plants really prefer fresh water over salt water. However, mangroves are perfectly adapted to living in the ocean. They have a lot of things that make them special compared to other plants. For example, their leaves. Feel the leaves.
They're so shiny and green.
They're so shiny and waxy. That makes them lose a lot less water and makes them better at holding in their moisture. They also have flowers, like a lot of other plants, and seeds as well. However, the seeds on the mangroves, they float. Cool. So that way they can go on the ocean and they don't need to be spread by the wind or other animals. They just drift with the tide and the currents. You want to see it float?
Yeah.
Here, drop it in the ocean.
Cool. All right. here? Where do you think the best place is? Here? Here?
Anywhere you want.
Doesn't matter.
No, not really the floating.
It sank.
Nope. See,
Oh, there it
you
is.
go.
It's coming back. And then what will happen with that seed?
So that seed, it's going to be floating there and it'll be bobbing around, and then eventually the current or the tide will take it to the land, and that's where it'll grow. The one thing that mangrove is really good at is holding in soil, especially when you're on the coast. Waves and water can wash away land. It's called erosion, and over time you'll lose some of your land. For example, over here we have a little bit of erosion, and the water has taken away a lot of this dirt, and this tree has fallen over because of that. Mangrove is really good at holding in all that dirt, so that way your land doesn't wash away. We call that coastal protection. It's also really good when you have big storms and tidal waves and tsunamis. Mangroves can have a really good protection, so that way the stuff that's on land doesn't get damaged by this really big wave. We saw that in the big tsunamis about 16 years ago. The houses that had mangroves in front of them were a lot less damaged than the houses without mangroves. So we know that mangroves can protect things that we like, and houses and people, really well. Yeah, we only have red mangrove in Hawaii. And in a lot of places where mangrove is native, you have a wide variety of mangrove species. You have the red, the white, and the black, and they all work together in a really specific way. But when you only have one species, and you don't have a lot of the other native species around it, and you don't have a lot of the animals that are used to living in mangroves, then it just takes over, and it really hurts the environment, really. Number one threat to healthy land in Hawaii is invasive species. It's these species that come in from other places and damage the ecosystems that are here. So it's really important that we prevent new species from coming here, but also control the ones that have already taken over. That includes mangrove, it includes a lot of types of fish, it includes a lot of other kind of plants too. So invasive species are a really big problem in Hawaii that we're trying to deal with.
So your nonprofit next Saturday is having a cleanup of the trash around here, and you're coming to trim or cut down some of the mangrove to help.
Yeah, some of this overgrown things that have just taken over. We gotta come. We usually come every month, and we just cut it back so that way it doesn't overgrow. We're slowly taking it down. This whole view used to be all blocked by mangrove, and now we have this gorgeous view of all of this part of Pearl Harbor and of the mountains over here. And so, we found it's better for the park, and it helps a lot of stuff when these invasive species aren't there. Even though the mangrove has a lot of really good things, in Hawaii, it's not good here because it doesn't belong here, right? It's only been here for a little bit of time, and it doesn't work well with a lot of the fish and the animals and the birds that are native to here.
So I heard there's pizza. I think I'll be joining the cleanup.
Yeah.
With you?
Yeah, I'm happy to have you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Bert.